Hot Rod Guy Garage. This is going to be another episode of 70 Torino. We got about 35 days to the No Name Nationals. I've got a car that still won't go down the track and put the power down that it makes. So stick with me through the intro, and I'll be back. So guys, you made it through the intro, and here we are here in the garage at the house. So there's going to be some overcast, some blurry light things go on, all that good stuff. But got less than 35 days at this point to the No Name Nationals. It's 35 days as of today, which is Friday. I got a car that still won't go down the track all the way or put down power that it makes. Reached out to several other converter companies. Nobody really seemed interested in making something for this setup, so I didn't really have many choices. I was going to put a C4 in it my buddy had. It's got trans brake in it and a mystery stall converter. But I figured for all the hassle, if I'm going to start changing the car up, that maybe I should look into changing it to something else. So behind me, some boxes. I'll flip the camera around and we'll talk about what I decided to do and why it's a bad idea. So guys, this thing is literally not really done anything since the last video where I swapped the stock torque converter in it. But as you can see, I've got it jacked up, not quite high enough for what I'm doing, but I bought something. So when I had bought a top loader 4-speed. And this is no run-of-the-mill regular top loader 4-speed. This is actually a 70 to 71 Torino 429 close ratio, big input shaft, big output shaft top loader with the factory Hurst Competition Plus shifter. Ignore the black paint up here. I just sprayed some on there so I can polish it off and see the Hurst on the shifter knob. So I cleaned transmission up, put a 3-speed cast iron bell housing on it because I like my feet, you know. But there comes a few things that gets into a problem putting the big input shaft, big output shaft top loader behind a small block. So as you can see, I got a throwout bearing. I got a clutch fork that I made out of the small block clutch fork. Block plate. I got a Ram clutch that was recommended by Frizzell Racing. Make sure you check his channel out. Got a pilot bushing, the throwout bearing box. I've got a new 306 cylinder flywheel for the 11-inch clutch right there. My dry shaft should work with this transmission. I'll have to measure. And the big thing is, I got one of these Malwood hydraulic clutch setups for a 70 to 71 Torino. And I do believe it says on the box that this fits 68 through 71. So there's part number if anybody's curious. Absolutely no instructions. They come with a QR code to their YouTube channel. And guess what? Malwood does not have an installation instructions for this, but it's pretty common sense how it goes in. We'll get into that later. I made another order from CJ's Ponies Parts so I can cut my original brake pedal pad down. These are the trim pieces here. If you were going to do such a thing like what I'm doing, to have your pedal trims and stuff back. The Mustang stuff is the same, along with this right here for the pad, for the disc brake pad. So clutch pedal pad is on that. I've got the seat out of the car. I've got the shifter out of the car. The shifter's right there. So seat's sitting over there. So basically, I've got a ton of work to do. So I'm going to bring y'all along for the ride, and we'll see what we can get done this weekend down here in the garage. It also gives a break from a few of the Mustang videos for a little while. I need a break from it. So here we are. Plus, like I said, I've got, less than 35 days at this point. And I've got a car that was a factory automatic car that has absolutely no straight shift stuff to it. So the only thing that I can think of that I don't possibly have sitting here at this point was if my dry shaft don't work, and I don't have a 4-speed shifter hump for a Torino. Now, for my research, 66 Fairlane, Comet, all the way to 71 to your Fairlane Torino derivatives, all use the same 4-speed shifter hump. I reached out to a couple of guys that part out Torinos. They want $400 for one. AMD repops it for about 60 bucks. Unfortunately, AMD is out of stock and I could not order one. So if you have one of those from AMD, I'll drop a little picture of it right here. I am interested in buying it from you because I need it. Otherwise, I'm going to have to raw dog this race with a hole in the floor with some carpet covering it. So let's get busy, check and see if everything fits. Alright guys, so here we are. Now, the big input shaft top loader uses this monstrous 1.75" throwout bearing. Now, a lot of you don't know, this is a small block clutch fork. And normally this is a lot narrower. And I went in here and I cut this clutch fork in half. And then split it in half here. And then made it where my throwout bearing will go. Notice the welds on the back side are kind of not real pretty, but they're strong. It's welded on the front side too, and I ground it down. So the big thing is a small block clutch fork is shorter because the bell housing is smaller. This has led me to several issues as I've come along. So I just need to make sure that we're not going to have any clutch fork interference with the bearing retainer up here and that everything moves freely, and it seems like it does. So it looks like I've done a good job making a clutch fork. I did order a new clutch fork from Jegs about a week ago at this point that was in stock. And it still hasn't shipped. They haven't sent me any kind of tracking info or any email for my purchase. So today at the shop, I just decided to modify the small block fork to work with the big block throwout bearing. So that's what I've done. So sometimes, guys, when you can't get this stuff and you got something you can make it out of, that's what you do. So the big input shaft top loader here is an 1 3/8" 10 spline. And that also brings us to another issue with the pilot bushing. Well, a big block Ford in 70 and 71, which is what this transmission is for, uses a 1.848 outside diameter pilot bushing. And I don't remember what the inside diameter is here. I'll have to measure it, but what I ended up with was ordering the pilot bushing off the specs. So this fits the small block crank and fits the big block pilot on your input shaft. So if you're doing this swap, that's your part number for your pilot bushing to put a big block top loader behind a small block. Throwout bearing, there's your part number. This will work with a small block fork if you split it and modify it like I did. But either way, this is the one that clears and works with your input shaft. So it seems like a lot of mess, don't it? Well, that's what happens when you put stuff behind things that it shouldn't have to go behind. And like I said earlier, this is a close ratio top loader. And as far as I'm aware, this is also the strongest top loader that Ford ever made. Simply because it's a 31 spline output shaft. It's got the big 1 3/8" 10 spline input shaft. It's a close ratio gear set with a good shifter on it from factory. These things are literal gold and hard to find. I bought this one in a deal off Marketplace from a guy that actually sells parts on eBay. He knew exactly what he had and he listed it for a good price, and a bunch of people wasted his time. I was the man that showed up with the money in hand. And I didn't haggle him, and he's a real cool guy. So I'll throw up a little screenshot of his eBay store. If you need any GM muscle car parts, he had tons of Chevrolet stuff, Buick stuff, and a bunch of Ford trucks and other stuff down around his place. Super nice guy, super legit, super stand up. This transmission, from me pulling it apart and looking at it, is everything he said it was. So hopefully it'll live behind this turbo 306 cylinder. So let's get the next step and see where we get. I've still got to pull the C6 out of the car. I've got the drive shaft out of it, transmission cooler off, and the shifter out of it. But other than that, I've not took anything else off. So this weekend, we got to get this transmission out of the car. I need to get all this stuff swapped over and see if I can get the transmission back in the car. But there's a bunch of stuff to do first. So let's keep going. Alright guys, I guess I can go ahead and put this clutch fork stuff back on the transmission. So what I'm going to do to install this, I'm going to use some of this steel camel. This is their thread and post. This is not only an anti-seize, and it's a real good anti-seize too. But this stuff you can use on your battery terminals. It is electrically conductive. It's great for dissimilar metals and stuff. I don't know if you can see that. steelcamel.com. Here is their phone number. And they're in Florida. So this is USA made stuff, guys. I really like this stuff for these kind of applications. I'm just going to put a light coat here where our throwout bearing rides. Just like you would a conventional anti-seize. This stuff, unlike a conventional anti-seize, this stuff is more of the consistency of like a wheel bearing grease without actually being wheel bearing grease. So I'm just going to put a light coat of this anti-seize on this bearing retainer, and that'll keep our throwout bearing from galding up. I'm just going to put a little bit on our clutch fork pivot. And what this does, it will just keep this stuff from sticking, guys, or causing an issue later. And I'm going to put a little bit here inside our clutch fork where that clip rides. Just a light coat. You don't have to glob this stuff on. So what this will do, it'll allow me to put my clutch fork and stuff back in here. Make sure it's clipped in. And it will just let that throwout bearing slide easily on this without any chance of it ever galling up or becoming an issue. Anytime you put something like this in the bell housing area, you do not want to use a lot of it. You just want enough to do the job. So, like I said, for this job, I'm going to use Steel Camel's thread and post. It's real great stuff, guys. Check them out. I've been meaning to do a full-length video on this stuff. They sent me a couple of samples, and I've been testing it in the background, and I've been really, really impressed with it. So that's installed. Let me get the boot that goes on the bell housing and get it on there. And then the clutch fork's installed. So I didn't order a repop boot, so all I got is the factory one. This bell housing is actually off my grandfather's truck that my dad currently has. I think I'm putting that on backwards. But this boot is from 1971, and it's been on a truck its whole life, so it don't fit all that great back in there once it's been removed. But I don't care if it's all ready. It'll kind of keep some stuff out of there and, you know, do what it's supposed to. And it may be stupid to put that old boot back on there, but I'm kind of weirdly sentimental about stuff, and that boot's always been in that bell housing, so it's going to stay in that bell housing. So let's move along and see where we get. So guys, I have already removed the brake pedal out of the Torino in preparation for his clutch pedal, hydraulic clutch pedal assembly. I've always been fond of this brake pedal pad that's been in my Torino ever since I bought it back in 1993. Well, since I don't have no instructions for that clutch pedal, and Malwood sure didn't supply none, or I had to figure this out on my own. So I'm going to make a clutch brake pedal out of the factory brake pedal, which this comes out of the assembly up there. It's just got a clip and a pin, and it's got 4 bushings, 2 on the outside bushings and 2 that go into the pedal. We'll get into that here a little later. But first, I need to make a manual transmission brake pedal out of my automatic power brake pedal. Now I'm sure if I was trying to buy this from a Torino parts guy, manual transmission pedal would probably be more than any normal man would want to pay. So I figured the easiest way to make one, considering the manual transmission stuff's the same height, would be just to cut this down. So that ought to be fairly simple enough. So I figured I'd just, take my death wheel and cut this down, something like this, and, trim it as needed. And I'm sure I'll probably have to hammer this indentation down a little bit, get this flat flange that's over here. I mean, I probably could just cut this and then cut this down and then weld this back on there. But this pedal's flat on this side instead of being, at an angle. So let's get this thing cut and see if we can actually adapt this manual transmission brake pedal to an automatic transmission disc brake pedal. So guys, here at the house I kind of have limited resources, so what I do at the house is probably more like what you're going to do at home. So I got my brake pedal, I got my death wheel. Well, that ought to do the job. Let's see. Nope, going to have to cut a little bit more off of it, so let's get that cut. Well, let's test fit it and see if we get it to work or if we screwed up here. So, a lot of times these repop pads don't fit great anyway. They don't have the slots and stuff like factory Ford pad does to get the pad started. We should be pretty close to this actually working. The sad thing is I'm going to have to take it back off if it does fit, so I can get the pedal painted, because you just don't want to leave raw metal everywhere. So it looks like that's going to fit. Let me grab my trim piece and see if it'll fit. So there's that trim piece. I know it's got a little bump out right here, but that's from not quite being able to flatten that place out. And it looks like all this is going to fit. So let me pop this back apart, because I'm going to have to fold these tabs down and stuff. It does have a little bump right here on the back side because of that, but it won't hurt anything. But our trim sits down flat and the bump won't be noticeable from the side. So looks like it'll work just fine. So let me pull this back off, clean it up, paint that inside that pedal. Anybody curious, that is factory paint on there. And if you're restoring one of these cars, your paint line's going to stop about right there. This is the first time this has ever been removed from that car. So let me get this painted and I'll be back. So I got this thing painted up and I got that pedal pad on there. These tabs just bend over on the back side for trim. Looks like I missed a spot there, but it's installed. So for a repop, looks pretty close. Just a lot less wear than the original. So I'm going to put this on the shelf because I like nostalgic things like that, and get this weird sentimental attachment stuff on this car that's always been a certain way. So I'm going to put this on the shelf, go out and look at it every once in a while, maybe pick it up and have some memories. So got a repop pedal pad on there. So I guess the next thing is to see if we can get this clutch pedal mess up under the dash So guys, I don't have anything bad to say about the quality other than they couldn't send some paper instructions. So basically this is the Malwood. Let me turn this just a little bit, get us out here in the thing. Hydraulic clutch pedal setup. Now this is how it come in the box. So my cylinder's already installed. It's already got our fittings installed for our braided line. It's going to run down to the slave cylinder. Got our line for the reservoir here. Basically, you're going to pull your pedal out. Now, it's going to be hard for me to show under the dash of the car. You're going to pull your pedal out, your brake pedal. This hole right here. It comes with a new pivot pin. And your new pivot pin is going to bolt this assembly through your brake pedal hole here. There's a hole already in the pedal assembly up under the dash up here. And on Torinos, this is going to be really hard to get to in the car. But trust me, that hole's there. So that's how I ended up getting the pedal already out of it, because I couldn't find any guidance to actually install this. So it looks like a super high quality, nice setup. But some instructions would have really been nice in this case. For reference, this is your factory automatic pedal pin. This is the same diameter. The lengths are a little different because you have to account for the clip, or this has got a bolt on both sides. But like I said, your brake pedal's going to come out because you're going to have to cut it down anyway like I did. And then the assembly will bolt in like this. And there's already a hole in the pedal assembly up there for this one. And it should just go bloop in there. So I'm going to climb under the dash, guys, and try to get the brake pedal back in it with this pin. They did supply new bushings. Here, there's actually 4 of them. There's 2 in the pedal assembly itself and 2 in the pedal. But for what this thing cost, which was close to $800, I expected at least some instructions. Come with this nice little billet reservoir, which I'll probably paint black because I don't really like shiny stuff. But this is what it come with for instructions. Scan the QR code. So I scanned it, took me to their YouTube video, to their YouTube channel. I looked through all their videos and couldn't find the 68 through 71 install video. So that means you're pretty much on your own, because I looked for somebody else installing one, just kind of have some kind of guidance, just in case I had to actually pull the assembly out of the car, which would have made it a ton easier for me to show you. But from me holding it up there and kind of getting the gist of the way things go, that's how it bolts up. The new pedal pin they send replaces your old brake pedal pin. That hole I showed you with that bolt up towards front, it's up under the dash. That hole's already there. So let's try to play off common sense and see if I can get this thing in there. Like I said, it's going to be hard for me to show you under the dash because I literally take up all the residence under there. So I can't video it. I'm not pulling this pedal assembly out because I've already had it out of this car once. I'm not pulling steering column to pull it out. So I'm going to fight it up in there. And if it installs exactly like I tell you it will, I'll show it to you when I get done there. So I'll be back, so hold on. So there's one more thing I've got to do before I start installing this thing. So here's my old pedal pad bushings. You can see on there. These things are actually in really good shape. They sent 4 new ones right here. They look just as good quality as the originals. And these things go into your pedal. Here and here. On both sides. So instead of putting these in there dry, because I don't know if any of you guys have ever had the 70s Ford squeaky brake pedal, I'm going to take some of this steel camel thread and post stuff again. This is an anti-seize / lubricant. I'm just going to put a little bit inside the pedal and a little bit on these metal edges. Like I said, this is an anti-seize, but it does not affect stuff like this plastic bushing. It will not cause any damage to it, but it will help hold it in. So I'm just going to put a little bit of that in there. I'm going to take this and just put a little bit here on the insides of these bushings. And just a touch on the outside. Just so we don't hopefully have any of those squeaky pedal problems anymore. And before I put it back in, I'll put some on this also. But let me get back under the dash, get this brake pedal hung in there, and see if I can't figure out how this thing goes together. So guys, like I said, it's going to be hard for me to show you, but you got another bushing here. There's another bushing on this side that goes in from the outside. This is your master cylinder rod right here. And your brake pedal goes up between here, you know, without all this stuff hanging in the way, like your brake pedal switch. But your pedal's going to slide up in here. You're going to put that pin through, and your pedal will be back installed. And if anybody's wondering how your brake pedal switch goes on there, it goes on there like this. And when you mash this brake pedal, you can see the little switch activate right there. You also got a clip that goes in right here. It goes through the pedal assembly. I won't get that in off camera because I can't stick my hand up in here and you guys at the same time. So let me get that in there and we'll move over trying to get the clutch pedal in it. So your clip installs like that, just like that right there. And a first look at our pedal, it looks like we're going to be all right there. So let's see if we can get that clutch pedal up in there. I got some wires pulled loose out of the fuse box that actually run across that area where this pedal is going to be. I may have to do something else different there. So guys, like I said, sorry the video's kind of crappy. It's hard for me to bring y'all along for this ride. So I'm going to grab the clutch pedal. I'm going to try to get it up in there. I hope I explained this well enough that if somebody buys one of these in the future, they can at least have some kind of guidance to go off of. But you're going to take the pin out of the brake pedal, like I said, pedal will come out. When you put all that back in there, just make sure your bushings are back in there. Then your pin goes back in all the way. And you get all your brake light switch stuff hooked back up, because if not, you won't have no brake lights. You'll be wondering why. So, got our clutch pedal assembly here. Getting it ready to go up under the dash. But there's one thing that we need to install, which is this trim pedal pad. That'll go right around the brake, well, the clutch pedal pad that they supply with this unit. After all, this is supposed to mimic a factory setup, so considering mine had the chrome trim or stainless trim around the pedals, I want to put it back like it was. So this trim, just literally like I showed you on the brake pedal, it pushes on there. You'll bend your tabs around the back. If you use a pair of pliers to try to bend these tabs, guys, make sure you put something soft around this so you don't mar up the outside. But that looks a lot nicer already. And like I said, I'm not going to bash on Malwood for not having the instructions, because this is a mega nice piece. I double checked all the bolts. All this stuff's already tight. And they cared enough to put the hardware in where it goes. So this sleeve is supposed to be pre-bled. That's why all this stuff's plugged off. So hopefully this thing will go in there pretty easily. Remember I said I wasn't going to pull the steering column and stuff out of it? I'm going to have to. There's just no way. First out of the bat here, I had to take the third bolt out of the steering column. There's a bracket on the Torino that bolts up to the side. I had to take that bracket out, and I thought maybe that's what it was hitting. It's not hitting that. To get it up into position, it is hitting the metal frame of the dash. And to be able to trim it in the car, I'm going to have to take the steering column out of it. So, no surprise there wasn't no instructions, because, yeah, they wouldn't have been able to show you this. A little redesign on the upper part of the pedal would completely prevent this and make you be able to do this like I was trying to do it. But it's just the way the pedal's designed, where it comes out, it actually comes forward and down and then back. If they would have just cut some of that radius out in that first bend, this wouldn't be an issue. But maybe I can get the camera up in there. I get the steering column out of it, where I can show you guys exactly where it's hitting, and save somebody the hassle in the future. Because what I've pretty much seen by watching their other install videos, this stuff's just supposed to bolt in, guys, and it's supposed to be a good fit. Shouldn't be no issues, but here we are. Now, if somebody from Alwood's watching this, please put out a video of the install instructions so you can sell more of these, because it's a really nice product, but you don't have no instructions, guys. And if I was going to go down the route of no instructions, I would have just bought a universal Willwood pedal for, you know, 150 bucks and mounted it to the firewall. That before would saved a lot of money. I spent a lot of money trying to get something that would bolt in easily and look nice in factory, because I care a lot about this car. It's got a lot of good memories with me, and I like to do things once, so I try to buy the nicest stuff I can. And when it don't fit, it gets kind of disappointing a little bit, especially at the price point. Because like I said, I could have bought a $150 Willwood pedal, mounted it to the firewall, mounted the master cylinder through, and we'd already be in business, guys. I would literally just have drilled 4 holes and cut a hole for the master cylinder rod pass through. Well, I think I finally got enough stuff out of the way. I got the steering column out of it, so I can show you guys where this pedal's going to hit. You're not going to do this without pulling this stuff apart. I'm not even sure I can cut this dash without pulling the dash out of it. I really don't want to pull the dash. But I'll show it to you best I can. So I can't bolt it up and show you. I'll literally just have to hold it up there and show you the area where it's hitting at. So guys, it's going to be super hard for me to show you this. But this pedal's going to go in here just like this, and I'm about a 1/2 inch off from the pivot where it bolts through. And as you can see, we have bad contact here with the dash. This is the steel dash frame. This is not a support brace or anything. This is actually the dash itself. So we got some bad clearance problems in this area, and this could have been easily taken care of with just a little redesign of the pedal. But more than likely, I'm going to have to take and cut this right here, up, over, and down. At least remove this section right here. This is where your steering column bolts. There's another bracket that bolts here for your third bolt. It's obviously not going to live there anymore because this area is not going to be there. And it kind of loops back. Let me see if I can position this phone. This is not scary wiring. All this stuff is soldered and taped, but this bracket goes in here something like this. And as you can see, it occupies that area we're going to have to cut out. So instead of having 3 steering column to dash bolts, we're only going to have 2. I don't really like that either, but it's just cards we're dealt. So I'm not really ranting here, guys, but at the price point, now this seems like $760 to my door. I bought it through American Powertrain. Reached out their customer support. I literally told them that I was going to be doing an install on a YouTube video, and asked if there was any kind of instructions. And I was told, Malwood, you'll have to contact them. So, yeah. I expect for that price point for this to be a pretty simple direct bolt-in. I do not expect to have to cut my factory dash. I know it is tight quarters under there, but it looks like that's what we're going to have to do. Also, without cutting it, you're not going to be able to get to that bolt in the pedal assembly for the front support bolt. So, I don't know how I'm going to cut it in the car without, setting something on fire or making a mess. I'm not pulling the whole dash out of this thing. If it comes down to the point where I can't do this in the car, I'm going to send this pedal back And this video is probably going to end a little different and happy-go-lucky like I intended it to be. Because if I'm going to have to go through a bunch of trouble modifying stuff, I am going to buy the cheap wheel wood pedal and put it in the car. Because I've done it before. It works just fine. I bought this because it's supposed to be a direct fit through a 68 or 71 Torino. And it's not a direct fit, at least so far. Once again, a lot of this would have been prevented with some simple printed instructions in the box. So, do better, guys. If you get an aftermarket company, and I know Malwood is a USA-based company, and I like to support these guys. But, come on, guys. Throw some paper instructions in your box. Let people know what they got to do before they get halfway in the job, and then just peel layers back trying to figure it out. So, let me figure out what I'm doing here, guys, and I'll be back. Well, ain't nothing like blowing sparks all around you. Nice car inside. So, I got the dash cut. I'll flip it around, I'll show you the piece cut out and the area I cut out. I've not test fitted the pedal back up in there, but I cut a little more than what I needed. Because the steering column bolts to this dash right here, this is about 1/4 inch thick metal. It is very hard to cut. It's not something you're going to easily bend or easily cut out inside the car. So to put this assembly in, you're going to have to pull the whole complete dash out of your car. That way you can cut it. And at that point, you're going to have to paint and touch stuff up also. Now, I cut this one in the car, but it was not easy. So let me flip around. I'll show you the pieces I cut out, and I'll show you what I'm dealing with. These are the pieces I cut out right here. Like I said, I cut a little extra, and there's a reason why I did that. Keep in mind, I've not touched no paint up or anything under here, but I cut this area out. It's a good 2 or 3 inches up. You can see the factory screw there. I cut it up just right past it. Your brake pedal assembly's right here, and as you can see, I actually kind of cut into it just slightly. I don't think it will hurt anything, but that bolt in this pedal assembly, I don't know if you can see it, it goes in right here in this hole. So hopefully now I can get this pedal up in here. And before anybody jumps down the comments and talks about my rusty brake pedal bracket and stuff, this is not a restored car, guys. This was my high school car that got a pretty paint job and cleaned up a little bit. It's a nice car, but it is far from a show car. And to be honest, I don't ever want it to be one. I want to keep it a decent, nice car and keep the memories that I have in it. So, as long as I can maintain everything like it is, it's going to stay just like it is. So, let me get this pedal up in here, and hopefully it'll fit. Well, that definitely gave us the clearance we needed. As you can see, that bolts in up there. I'm in the pivot right there. I have concerns about it hitting this side bracket. Once it's bolted up, I guess I'll see once I get it tightened up. I may have to pull it back out and cut some more of the factory dash out from under it. So let's see. And all right, it bolted up and it does clear that brace. I'm sorry for the glare overhead. Open the door because it'd been storming today. And I'm not sure if it's going to pick it up on camera, but probably not. But it's like weirdly light green out here. Like the light's green. Pretty interesting. I know it's probably not going to pick it up on the camera. Let me flip around. We'll see if it does. Well, I don't guess it does. Not looking through my end, but yep, it's definitely green. So if you're wondering why I'm doing all this, it's because September we got the No Name Nationals. Quick Google search will take you there, or you can check out John Wilburn here on YouTube. He is the man that puts this on. So back to the pedal. We now have a clutch pedal. There's no way to steer it. It all bolted up fine. It all clearanced out okay. It's a little tight, but there's about a 1/4 inch there. So enjoy that view of that factory light gold, which is more of an almond color that this car was. So at this point, I guess I need to try to get this steering column back in here, which will surely be a treat now that there's a pedal where I can't feed that big old rubber boot / metal brace column support at the bottom through. Also got to drill a hole for the clutch meshes on the reservoir, and I've got to figure out where I'm running the clutch line out from the car up underneath for my slave cylinder that I'm going to attach this top loader. So I don't know if I'll be able to get all this installed done in this video, guys, but I'm going to try. So if you enjoy this kind of content and like watching me struggle with stuff that should bolt in and it don't, make sure you like this video, share it with your friends, and most importantly, if you're not subscribed and you're watching this, there's lots of cool classic car stuff, vintage Mustang stuff on my channel, custom fabrication stuff. Just jump on my channel, check out my playlist. There's a ton of oddball, weird, cool stuff on here. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys, as always. So I'm going to get back to trying to put the bottom of my dash together. Like I said, maybe me showing where I had to cut this dash will save somebody some trouble if they buy this pedal in the future. So let's see how far we can get. I know I'm going to have to pull the carpet up in it. I'm going to have to cut a hole for the shifter, but we'll approach that when we get there. I just need to get the steering column back in. Alright guys, I got the steering column back in the car. I'm getting ready to hook up the electrical connections. And I know I showed y'all the steel camel anti-seize earlier in this video. They also have this. This is a spray. This is electrically conductive. 40 connectors like in these cars that are almost like a trailer connector. They're rubber. Got 2 metal pins and they offset and slide together. This stuff right here will save your life. It's also good to spray in your electrical connections to prevent corrosion. This is a real good stuff. Once again, it's available at Steel Camel. This is their corrosion inhibiting lubricant. So it's electrical contact safe, hardware, lighting, and multi-pin connectors. Pick up a little bottle of this stuff with them, spray it, send them an email, tell them I sent you. I wouldn't promote this stuff if I didn't use it. I'm using it on a car that means a lot to me, so that ought to say a lot. And when I'm talking about electrical connections, guys, I'm talking about like this right here, where you got like almost like a trailer plug. And I know it's hard to see up under this dash, but this stuff makes these a whole lot easier to put back together and make sure you won't have no corrosion. Or I could knock y'all over because, like I told you before, it's a real tight tolerances under here. I see like this ignition switch connector. You see, I don't know if you can see, but I'm going to drop you again. But just going to give it a light spritz and plug it back in. But like I was trying to say, guys, this stuff's real good stuff. It's meant to prevent corrosion, especially in electrical connectors. I honestly asked them to send me the simplest stuff, and it's been about 4 months before I've even mentioned it. Because I've been actually using it, I've been testing it, and I want to fully, wholeheartedly be able to say, hey, this is good stuff. So, I'm going to finish connecting everything under the dash, try to get my tack and my shift light back on the column, since I had to take them off. That stuff's also good to spray on them old rusty fuse box connectors because it'll keep you from doing it. So I got all the under dash stuff wrapped up. Steering column's back in it, all the trim pieces, tack and shift light and all that stuff's back mounted. I did run the clutch line, the reservoir line. There is a plug above the fuse box. I ran it straight through there. It comes out about level where that clutch master cylinder is. So that was nice. It was already a hole there. I'm probably going to run the one for the slave up under the car through the steering column boot. That's about all I can do tonight. I got to go in the morning and find some kind of adapter for this Wheelwood slave cylinder to the clutch line. And then I guess we'll pick up tomorrow after I get back with that stuff. We'll try to get this reservoir mounted and get the C6 out of it and start changing flywheels and all that good stuff. So stick with me and I'll be back. Guys, this is going to be just kind of a late night pop-in. I intended to make this kind of one video. And I got the editing footage. I was sitting up here on the couch after taking a shower and stuff. That's why I don't have my glasses and stuff on. This video is about 45 minutes long at this point, and I've still got some editing to do and adding on to it. And it's going to pretty much break my phone for the next, until I wake up in the morning. So I'm going to end this video here. There will be a part 2 come tomorrow, which will probably be released the day after this video releases. So if you like this video, please hit that like button, share it with your friends. As always, I look forward to seeing your comments down below. If you're not a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. It's absolutely free. And it helps me bring you videos like this and helps me on that 65 Mustang project and lets me comp a little bit of labor on the build, which greatly helps him out because it's a super expensive project, just like anything that you do in your own garage. If you are a subscriber, I greatly appreciate you guys. And as always, thank you for watching. I'll see y'all at the next video. There will be a part 2 to this one.